And yet we have another survival game on this list that just hit the marketplace fairly early. The development team seemed to be running out of money a lot sooner than they probably anticipated, which led to them releasing this game in a fairly unfinished state. Dawn of Defiance is the name of the survival game. It's an open-world survival game that is heavily inspired by Greek mythology, although the content currently present in the game is very limited and linear, not many varieties of enemies for you to fight and engage with. The best way I could describe this game would be comparing it to Valheim, and that's only as far as the concept. As far as performance and optimization, this game could not be any further from Valheim. But basically, instead you are facing the other side of the story. You are a Spartan and not a Viking. There's plenty of dungeons for you to discover which feel the same, and once you establish a way inside and get the goodies, you will never have to come back to it ever again. The building system is not nearly as good as it is in Valheim, and honestly, let's face it, I don't think there's anything out there that will ever match Valheim's simplicity and quality. But with that being said, Dawn of Defiance is not a terrible game after all. The game is running on Unreal Engine 5, and you already know that engine can really pull off some incredible magic when it comes to the visual side of things. So if the game lacks in content, the visuals of it could really carry the rest of the way from here on out, especially at its initial stages. Obviously, if the game remains not optimized and not supported for a good amount of time, people will then see through the BS, and even then a good-looking game wouldn't cut it. You begin the journey on this starter island where you get to explore the majority of its system and the things you could do in the game. But once you get that exploration out of the way, you will quickly realize that there's just so much lack of content to explore and discover. Enemies quickly become repetitive, and there is a bunch of empty space with little to no content available to you as a player. And that's why I said at the beginning of the video, devs seemingly ran out of money and decided to push it a lot earlier with limited things to do. And devs are really relying on support from players that currently purchase the game. There's even a DLC available for the game for those who want to go a mile extra and support its development that way. I personally don't like the whole idea behind DLCs, especially when games are not even fully released. Obviously, this is only my opinion, to each their own, but I need to know from the investment side of things that the game will prove itself, that it's here to stay and not to drain the money out of me, so to speak. Coreborn is a phenomenal example of this type of behavior, and I will never trust another studio on that part, especially when the game just releases in early access and they already demand extra money by releasing DLCs immediately. As far as the gameplay, Dawn of Defiance didn't do too terrible as far as the frame rate drop, but it was certainly still there. One thing that drove me absolutely crazy was the motion blur. It seemed to be completely turned off in my settings, but even then, it was still there, present in a very excessive amount. The map is surprisingly abnormal in this game, and for the future reference, I would hope to see a better way of transportation. You can fly in this game, which drains stamina, but I'm referring to on-land transportation. It would have been really ideal, especially for the settings of this game. The combat is basic, and it's pretty good. Or good enough, I guess. Surely enough, something you've experienced in other games. Basically, every time you use shield or any dodge movement, it requires your stamina. And every move you make has to be precisely timed and planned. And these are my first impressions of the game. I will definitely come back to it. Right now, I will have to lay it down and let it bake for a few months, hopefully. Personally, the lack of content is what doesn't do it for me, and it is definitely very obvious from the start of the game. There's plenty of sponsored videos out there, which means they probably invested more throwing keys out and try to publicize the game that way rather than really take the time and polish the game. I did not get paid to receive a free copy. In fact, I bought this with my own cash, so everything I say is purely genuine. And the game is not bad, you guys. Please don't get this video as a negative review, but I noticed that there's little to no people out there, especially I'm referring to content creators, playing it and explaining it. But instead, every other video on the internet is just a sponsored review video, and I really did not like that. So I decided to get this game for myself with my own cash and just do a proper review, or I suppose first impressions, and just tell you what I think about this game. It has certainly room for growth, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately it is not there as of right now as we speak. So